Hi, I'm Jonathan Paul, and welcome to day 3 of the third annual Insight Jam, a week-long social media celebration of enterprise technology, hosted by Solutions Review. Today's focus is on enterprise resource planning and WorkTech, and for the next 60 minutes, we'll have a discussion with 5 industry experts on improving work from home with WorkTech. So let's bring in that group of gentlemen and lady right now. Very excited to have with me this group, Arvind, Miguel, Neil, Patricia, and Rowan. Thank you for being here. It is going to be a great discussion, I think. Neil has graciously agreed to moderate that discussion. So I'll step out of the way, let you guys get into the introductions and chat. So Neil, take it away with your introduction, please.
Sure. I'm Neil Bruce. I'm the head of product at meQuilibrium.com, and I'm excited to be moderating in this discussion that we're going to have. I would love to have Miguel next introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Miguel Valdez. I'm CEO and co-founder of Bonitasoft. Bonitasoft is a software vendor in the process automation space.
And Patricia.
Well, hi, everyone. I'm Patricia. I'm the CEO and founder of KADO. So KADO is a networking and relationship management solution. We're especially focused on services that basically rely on relationships to do business. So legal, banking systems, consulting, and basically want to help them better network and connect with clients while also centralizing and better managing their client information.
Thank you. And Rohan.
Hey, my name is Rohan Kapoor. I work at Deloitte as a senior consultant. I specialize in CRM, primarily working on large-scale tech implementations, a lot of Salesforce work there, a little bit of SAP, Monday.com, a lot of that kind of stuff.
Great. And Arvind.
Hi, I'm the CEO of Glean. We are a workplace search company. We make it easy for you to find any information or answers to questions you're looking for across all of your WorkTech tools.
Great. Well, thank you so much, all of you, for joining me in this conversation. Everyone has been given the questions ahead of time, so hopefully no surprises. What I'll do is I'll read off each of the questions, and then as each of our panelists has something to say, I encourage them to jump in. And if I have any thoughts, I'll jump in at the end of each question, and then we'll move on to the next. So the first question we have is, how has remote work affected the way companies use their WorkTech software? And who would like to go first on that?
Yeah, I can talk a little. Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead, Patricia.
Okay, perfect. So at least from my point of view and how it has affected like our internal way of working. So we have seen this sort of like in different verticals. I would say HR has the one that has been mostly impacted in the sense of, being able to better onboard employees remotely, or basically, being able to identify people within the organization. Sometimes you just find yourself, right, arrive into a company of hundreds of people and you don't know who is who. You only have sort of like little profiles on Slack or on your communication system, but basically that has implied or impacted companies in such a way that has distanced a lot employees. So I would say that's the first thing. Then there have been lots of like new companies that I've seen that have arisen in the area of managing actually workspace. So for example, there was this Y Combinator company. Now that you don't need basically that much workspace, but you still want employees to go back to the office from time to time. There have been, new WorkTech solutions that allow you to better manage when employees go to the office, who holds that office space. So that's sort of like an interesting sector that I've seen lately arise in company.
Yeah, I think someone else had something to say on this topic too.
I think Arvind.
Yeah, I was going to say that. See, as we've all started to sort of work more remotely, the need for like many more tools have actually come up. Like whether it's communication tools, conferencing tools like Zoom, even collaboration tools like whiteboarding. So there's a lot. There's an explosion of tools that now as companies you need to use to make sure that everybody is as productive working from their home as they were in their office. And one thing that is also doing is that with that explosion of the tools, is actually making things a little bit hard, like when you need to find things. And so companies need to also invest in making sure that employees have all the resources available to them to quickly find information that they need, in their work across all of these different workplace tools.
Yeah, if I may, Neil, I also related to what you were saying, also Arvin, I think that there are also the expectations in companies are also changing, and in which respects what people expect from a WorkTech solutions. And for example, you're talking about conferencing. It's not anymore about making sure that we can do a call remotely and just switch on and put our camera. People are expecting that everybody is going to have a better experience. People are expecting that by definition, every meeting now is a remote first meeting, meaning that the majority of the people are going to be remote. Mm-hmm. And that you need to handle those the two kind of situations in which you have a lot of people remote and some other people that are located still in an office. And how do you manage a good experience for all those people? How do you also ensure that even people that are not joining that meeting, they can also see the recording, they can also find information and some of the decisions that has been made during that meeting. So I think that expectations also on those kind of tools are changing and are evolving.
Great points. Rohan, did you want to jump in on this one too?
Yeah, yep. I could definitely add to that. I think something that we're seeing, especially in the consulting space, is a lot of RFPs right now with regards to just tech implementations, right? Like we're seeing a lot of people ask about, hey, like how can we optimize our work from home? Whether it's from a technological perspective, but also from a cultural perspective, right? Because a lot of the stuff that we're seeing is new to a lot of companies, to a lot of smaller firms. Obviously, the big wigs out there are used to this. They have the infrastructure for it. But a lot of what we're seeing is companies are saying, hey, before we go in and we implement the technological aspect of it, how do we go about the culture and making that shift internally and getting that message across? So I think that's a big part of it is, how are people responding to these changes, as well as obviously the tech that's out there.
Yeah, and I'll just add on to what Rohan just said. I think the humanity aspects of the WorkTech is really challenging. So for example, I'm not used to pre-COVID land being on camera for 10 hours a day, and it's exhausting. And I think lots of people feel that way. And so companies are grappling with, is it okay to turn your camera off occasionally? Do I ever get to go to the bathroom between my meetings? There's a lot of mechanical stuff that I think makes this hard. And I think for new employees, what I'm hearing is there's really a loss of sense of culture and family and connectedness. And so I think that the WorkTech is much better than it was 10 years ago, but there's a long way to go. Yeah. So let's jump into the second question, which is kind of related. What kinds of processes should companies be automating to improve their workflow for their work from home employees? Yeah, Miguel, please.
Yeah, I can take this one. I'm the process automation guy here in the panel, so that's my topic. So I see automation everywhere. So I think that there are, of course, plenty of automation opportunities in organizations. We saw that before the pandemic. We're seeing that even accelerated during the pandemic. And I think that we can see different kind of processes that could be a priority. The ones that has been inefficient for years and are still inefficient today. And I think that there are inefficiencies in all our companies, probably, when you are onboarding a new employee. Mm-hmm. Those are the ones that usually, everybody see that can be automated, but it's usually partially automated. And those processes are even getting more complex with remote work because, for example, at Bonitasoft, we have a choose your own device policy. Mm-hmm. And then you can potentially equip your own home with new furniture. So all that adds complexity, mm-hmm. not only on onboarding, but offboarding when that happens, when people at some points want to acquire the furniture or the device that they were property of the company. So all those processes that are part of the day-to-day of any employee are, of course, for me, the number one priority if we are trying to focus on the employee experience, which for me, it's related to what you were also saying, Neil, about it's even harder when you are not having a coffee, right. In the office every day. And then I will say there is another category of processes that are more what they call the mission critical. So in a bank, managing loans, in an insurance, making sure the customers are happy when they are calling you for an issue. And those ones, again, some of them were already a little bit inefficient. But when from one day to the other, some people were forced to work at home, not because of a choice, but because of, again, of the pandemic, for example, then you see another level of inefficiencies, no? Some of the inefficiencies in a day-to-day basis were solved, again, around a coffee, or when you are having a discussion with another colleague. Oh, did you got my email? Oh, I didn't send you back the spreadsheet. So, now it sounds clear for everyone that, especially those that are mission critical, needs to be first well understood, well defined, and then automated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if I may jump in,
Please.
I mean, obviously, like on the first part, like I totally feel you, especially again, like on the onboarding of employees. Many things can go wrong. They can be missing many things, and you cannot just like turn to the side and tell him like, "Hey, sorry, I'm just trying to set up my Zoom, whatever. How do I do this?" So obviously, we need to find a way by which employees can really find themselves at home and at ease whenever they join a new firm. But another thing sort of that we are seeing internally and that we're trying to automate as much as possible is everything around communication. So for example, we use Slack internally, and and I encourage other companies to do this, to create channels, to be able to, I don't know, we have one that is connected to Stripe, another one to Jira. So whenever there's an update around product, or we have made a sale, or have a new customer, we're able to basically receive automated communications. Because unfortunately, again, as you were saying, Miguel, you cannot just turn around and say like, "Hey, I just closed the sale," whatever. I mean, unfortunately, you're behind a desktop, maybe the other person is on a call, whatever. So having all of those communications automated and sort of like centralized in whichever communications tool you're using is great, just to ensure that all of the employees are up to date of what is going on in the company. How are your sales looking, or how is your product roadmap looking? So that's sort of like my views in terms of what things can be more automated.
Yeah, that's a great observation. I like when you're at home, the information is hard to come by. Like you don't have coffee conversation where you can learn about all these things that Patricia was mentioning, what's new in the company, how are our sales doing, and so having a really good tool that allows you to learn um, everything that's happening in the company so that you feel connected, that's very important. And it will be good for companies to go and invest in tools like that. I would say also one more thing, which we've learned from our own experiences, is you also need more structure and automation in your actual project planning. So like sometimes when you're all sitting in the same office, you can get away without like detailed planning of like what you're going to do today or this week. And because you're all there, and like if I run out of work, I can just go and talk to my manager or see like what are the other things I can pick up. But when you're at home, like again, you're distant, like it's hard to sort of like have that, like, and you need to make sure that one practice that we follow is every morning the team gets together. Like you can just spend 5 minutes or 10 minutes and plan out the day. What is everybody working on? Communicate with each other so we all know what everybody else on the team is working on, and make sure that everybody is aligned and working on things that we need to make which sort of aligns with our company priorities.
Great. I'm going to jump to the next question, which is, how is the WorkTech market? Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Rohan.
Looks like we lost him.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll jump forward, and then hopefully he'll be able to rejoin.
Hey.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Rohan. Yeah, now we can.
Rohan, were you going to say something?
Yeah, sorry. For some reason, there's a lag. Hopefully, everyone can hear me now. What I was just saying, just to add to that, I was going to talk a little bit about some of the work from home kind of hardware related investments. Like not necessarily just talking from a tech perspective. Like just as an example, I think Miguel touched on this a little bit as well. There's also the components of like, hey, like, do you have, the right equipment to be able to get online? Like, do you have a webcam? Do you have headphones? Do you have, a chair or a desk, right? Like, for a lot of us, when we were hit with the pandemic, like, this is something completely new where I've had colleagues who would be working out of their bedrooms, literally just sitting in bed the whole day. So I think that's just another aspect to point out.
Yeah, great points. Yeah, another couple of questions, and I'll bundle them together, has to do with security. So there's security of the people, security of the tech. So what kinds of workplace security issues have come up that WorkTech has helped with now that people are working from home? Anyone want to jump in on kind of security challenges related to work from home?
Well, I mean, I can
Yeah.
give it a go. So obviously, well, the first thing I would like to say is that some of the security issues that existed before still exist. So, for example, in one of the prior companies where I worked at, you always have the risk of an angry employee who, before leaves, will goes to the CRM or whatever database and deletes I don't know how many entries. So again, those are things that before used to happen in the pre-COVID times, and obviously the risk was still there and does still exist now. So one of at least the key developments that I've seen that have come with COVID, because again, this risk has sort of like increased considerably versus what the risk was before, was a lot of like tools and software management systems to control access of employees to specific applications, to specific client information. Even within an internal relationship management tool, there are certain clients that you should have access to, or certain information about clients that you should have access to, but there's other information that you shouldn't. So using this type of tools that basically limit the access of employees to specific information are key. Especially if we think about service sectors, again, like law firms, banks, consultants. I'm pretty sure, Rohan, there's a lot of information that these professionals manage that can be sort of like semi-private, and not everyone should be having access to. So obviously, the fact that people are remote, you have less control of what type of data they're accessing. So having systems in place, or relationship management type of tools that help you manage that kind of access to this type of information, are key to ensure there's no like client information leaks of any way. And obviously there are like other topics, or other issues that have arisen with work from home, like, okay, what type of Wi-Fi you're using, is it secure? There's lots of like emails coming that you cannot control, but I'm pretty sure like the rest have also like, if you can add
Yeah. The one thing which is interesting is that there's no longer these like the secure perimeter of your office. Every single meeting, every single conversation that you have with somebody, it's happening over the internet, right? Whether you're talking to somebody on Slack, whether you are meeting with your folks on Zooms or Meet, everything is all of this communication is actually passing through the internet. And what that means is that companies have to invest more in making sure that their infrastructures are secure. I mean, if you remember, like right after the pandemic, everybody started to use Zoom for all business meetings, and the usage exploded. But when that happens, the community goes and tries to poke holes in these tools, like a lot of security issues that were discovered. So like the good thing is that these tools, like they got better over time because of all of that attention and scrutiny. But that's the thing to remember, that now everybody is remote. All your company communication is out there in some way, and you should invest in making sure that things are secure.
I agree also with, I think, Patricia, you were saying that the majority of the security issues were already there before the remote work, and that's true. And again, I think that of course has been remote work has accentuated some of the issues that some company had in terms of security, and at the same time, everybody I think is more knowledgeable about cyber attacks. We're seeing cyber attacks in the media, for the last 2 years a lot, and that a lot of companies are a potential target. So I think that those two phenomena together, people are now realizing the importance of security. So people are paying more attention about deploying things like password managers in the company. They're also paying a stronger attention when they are onboarding new solutions, selecting new solutions, and making sure that the IT department is more involved also, not only to validate the capabilities or functionalities of the tool or the service that you are adding to the company, but also checking a little bit in terms of security and compliance. No, so I think that everybody is all that is helping to improve security as a whole in organizations.
Rohan, did you want to add anything around security?
Yeah, and I was going to add. I was just going to add that we're hearing work from home a lot, right? Like a lot of the companies are just even anywhere we hear about how cultures are changing, we hear work from home. But really, what you have to keep in mind is it's work from anywhere. So the cybersecurity aspect, multiplies because you don't necessarily know where the worker is, right? They could be working from their home, they could be working from their car, they could be at the beach, right? And the key aspect of it, and I think this was called upon earlier as well, is it's all over the internet, and you don't know where they're getting that internet access from. So while we have VPNs and we have ways to secure this, it really comes down to how strong that is, because you're not necessarily logging in from the same place every day. So I just wanted to add that as just an additional tidbit that it's an additional consideration where you say home, but really you never know.
Yeah, great points. So this next question is a bit of a setup, soft commercial. So the question is, what issues have you seen with remote work, and how has your company or a WorkTech solution helped solve these issues? So maybe we can go around the horn and have each person talk a little bit more about their organization and how your company helps with all the challenges that we're going through right now in the world. I don't know who wants to be the first to give their little elevator pitch.
I'm happy to start.
Great, go for it, Miguel.
You can go first.
You want to go first, Rohan?
Sure, Rohan, go ahead. Go ahead, Rohan.
You had some delay there. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. I'll say Rohan, go for it,
yeah, for some reason there's some lag. Okay, cool. So yeah, what I was going to say was a lot of what we're seeing is, especially specifically within consulting, I mean, for a lot of what we do is we travel, right? We are on the roads Monday through Thursday each week, visiting a client site and working out of the client's office. So that's been a big change within consulting, because what goes on is now you're doing it from home, right? And a lot of the work that you're doing with your clients, they're at home and you're at home, and now they're beginning to realize that there's not necessarily a need for you to be traveling as much. And that's huge within this industry. Hey, you can do this at home. So now we're not from traveling, which kind of expands our bandwidth a little bit. Now, there's a downside to that as well, because, you almost get sick of it, because a lot of people who sign up for this are here in consulting because of the travel. So it's kind of a fine line between, hey, you don't want to overdo the work from home aspect, but you also don't want to be in a position where, you're not out there in front of the client at all.
Got it.
Yeah.
And Miguel, why don't you give us a little bit about your company?
Sure. At Bonitasoft, we are working, or we have a remote friendly policy since 2019. So before the pandemic. So we thought also during the pandemic that, we have already thought about the processes, we already had the right tools, and everybody was ready to work from home. Basically, our policy is every employee, without any, it's his own decision, decides on a day-to-day basis where he want to work, at home. If there is an office that is close to his home, he can also step by the office, but it's actually an employee decision. But for us, the difficulty was more about it's not the same as an employee to say, okay, I have the freedom to stay at home or to go to the office. Then from one day to the other, the offices are closed because the government obliges, for example, here in France or in the US, where we have offices, to close the office. And one day to the other, you are working 100% home. And then we start seeing that what happened is that we saw the number of meetings growing, because again, even the majority of the people were doing 3 or 4 days at home, and then they spend one day at the office to also hang out with people and have a coffee and whatever, have those informal discussions, and then, let's have a drink together. And, all those kind of discussions, as you don't have it anymore. So people were scheduling meetings, 30 minutes meetings to catch up on something on work that usually is causing a coffee or around a beer. So we saw the number of meetings growing for all of us. So at some point we said, okay, at some point I need to master my agenda. And second issue was about this lack of social interaction. And this one is hard to solve because it's not because you are adding additional tools that you are going to solve it completely. If at some point people need to see each other. So one of the things that we are doing at Bonitasoft is like, it's not about tooling, it's about, we organize 2 corporate events per year. So at least in which, it costs some additional money, but everybody's flying to the same location and we spend a week together to have fun, but also to align a little bit on objective. So that's just an example. So we do a combination of meetings, events, we allocate different budgets to different people so they can see each other with, of course, tools that allows a better communication. No? So my point here is it's not just about the tooling. At least for us, we didn't find a combination of tooling that can reduce people seeing each other to zero. That's I don't know what is your experience on that.
Great points. Patricia, why don't you tell us a little more about what you guys are doing?
Yeah, so I actually also wanted to continue or basically complete what Rohan was saying. We are a COVID-born business, so we started remote. So it's not that we have really seen a big change since what we were doing before versus now. We started remote, so all of our communications are remote. However, one of the points that I would like to sort of highlight, and as I was saying at the beginning, we're very focused again on or KADO as a software, we're very focused on relationship-driven businesses. So again, like consultants, lawyers, bankers. So all of these sectors, they have always been very heavy networking driven. They relied a lot, on networking, going to see the client, having a coffee with them, building a relationship so that, you would eventually basically nail the client or nail the deal. And right now with remote working, there has been, or we have lost sort of the human part of relationships. Now everything is so digital. Everything is just there's a conversation with Zoom. You don't have that sort of face-to-face or personal conversation that will allow you to connect with your client, in a more human and personal way. So, with KADO, at the end of the day, what we are doing is, helping professionals sort of gather all of the information that they need about a client, from past communications that you've had, meetings that you've had in the past, LinkedIn updates, what they tweet about, everything, and sort of help you find your commonalities with the person that you're speaking to. And that is one of the key things, that we've seen around this, again, heavy relationship-driven sectors that have lost that sort of possibility to connect, with their clients. And right now, the face-to-face, or I don't know, the doing business over the golf course has been translated to, let's have a 30-minute Zoom chat. And in that 30-minute Zoom chat, you really need to be able to find a way of really connecting in a personal way with that potential client. Because, whether that client is going to choose you or the other provider is going to be based on how much they like you, not really your technical skills, because everyone is assumed to do their job well. So being able to find, again, that sort of personal commonalities in a remote environment in the digital world is one of the things that we've seen as the biggest challenges. Even me, as a founder, whenever I speak with, potential investors and VCs, etc., all of that personal side, trying to understand where they come from, what they've done in the past, what type of communication have we had, is sort of a key process. And obviously has led to more sort of like due diligence work that I didn't need to do before, because I could sort of like take them to a coffee store or take them for a beer and just like engage in a more informal way. So there are a lot of things that have changed in that way, and again, we're like very focused on trying to bring the human side that we have lost due to remote working.
Thank you. And Arvind, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you guys are up to?
Yeah, so Glean is a search company, and I'll tell. So first, I'll talk about the problem that employees are facing today in the workplace. So, like if we think about the last 1 decade, one big transformation that we've gone through is companies switching from using on-premises software and services to using cloud-based tools. There are a lot of different applications that are used within a company to meet your different business needs. And we discussed, like, as companies started to get more distributed, you had to actually add more to that tool set, right? I mean, there's so many more new WorkTech tools that you have in your company to do your job, whether these are documentation tools, conferencing tools, communication tools. Companies are using like hundreds of different pieces of software to meet their overall business needs. Now, when with that like explosion of tools, what is happening with your company information and knowledge is that it is getting fragmented across all of these different places. So when you're looking for something, when you say you need help, you need to find out in a specific document or a ticket, it's sort of hard to figure out like where to go and look for that information. There are hundreds of different places, and so that's one problem that we solve with Glean. We are a search engine for your business. We connect with all of your different enterprise tools, and we give you one place where you can go and ask any question or type in a search query, and we'll bring back the right answers. Whether those answers were in Slack or Drive or Zoom or um, like any other tool that you use in your workplace. The other thing that's also happening in the workplace is, again, like as we get more distributed, is that we don't always have help available to us. Like when we have a question, like there's no notion of you looking over your shoulder and asking the person sitting next to you, like, how do I do this thing, right? So again, like help is becoming uh, less available. Like, everything is getting formalized. There are no informal channels where you can sort of get quick answers to your questions. And again, a need for a really good search tool that helps you get those answers quickly to you is becoming very important. So that's what our company does. It focuses on giving employees a really good question answering and search tool that they can use to do their jobs faster. And then the second part of like our product is, we were talking about how distributed work is causing isolation. Like, you're at your home sitting by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what's happening in the company today. You don't know what's new. You don't know what your friend or your colleague is working on, and making sure that you have tools that allow you to stay connected with your team, with your company as a whole. And also, like as management, that you have tools to disseminate information to your employees to make them feel connected. That's also a big part of what's going to make you an effective company, like if you invest in that area. And that's what Glean helps you with. It also serves as your work home, one place where you discover what's new in your company.
Very cool. Well, I'll share. meQ, we sell software that trains people how to be more resilient. So it works at the individual level, at the team level, at the organizational level, with lots of different components where we have people take an assessment. And then there's also like aggregated group assessments where we understand why people think what they think, what do they do, what is their relationship to resilience, and then we create a personalized program for each person and at the group level to help them become more resilient. And so that means things like focusing on positivity, problem solving, empathy. We have 18 different factors of resilience that we measure, and we can also tie that into companies' values, so we can help people, especially as they're onboarding, to understand how much are they living up to the values of the company, and what skills and habit forming activities should I be doing to grow into those corporate values. So as you can imagine, business is good. We sell calm and peace and positivity, and people want that right now. And so, one of the things I do with my team is we use our own products. So there are team courses, there are individual training programs, but also team courses. And so, there's a whole series. Every Monday I have a team meeting, and we spend about 10 minutes going through one of the modules. So one of them would be like, managing team burnout. And there's a series of questions we talk about, like, how do we make sure that we're not burning out in the middle of these projects, or working as a remote team, or working as an inclusive team, or psychological safety. So these are all examples of things that teams can talk about. How do we support, or how do we hinder, for example, psychological safety, and what can we do differently? So that's a little taste of what we do. And I would encourage, whether you use us or someone else, I would encourage companies to look at buying services, scalable software services that help your employees be better humans, because it's a win-win. If you're a better human, then you're going to be a better employee. And so that's a little bit about meQ. I'm going to go on to what might be our last question, depends how much time we spend on it. But what I wanted to ask is, what are are there any specific WorkTech functionalities that you would especially recommend to a company with remote workers?
I think we discussed about some of them already, in terms of a lot of also video communication, and we've seen here also some interesting tools about of course making sure that people can find information really fast in the organization that can help of course especially newcomers. But I also I like to highlight that there are more and more tools that are helping to manage both synchronous and asynchronous communication. And of course, and that they also need to be used. We need some process also to be defined, and some rules to hold those solutions are going to be used. Because, for example, when we make a decision in a meeting, or making a decision, discussing with different people, is that decision going to be done synchronously? Are we going to store it in a particular tool? Are we going to share that by Slack? That sounds like the best channel to make a decision. So there's a mix of tools to make sure that we can improve both synchronous and asynchronous decision. There are tools that also need to specify where you store the different kind of information. Of course, we discussed at the beginning about process automation tools. I think which are essential those days. Process automation is not about replacing humans. It's about making sure that the people in the organization has the right information at the right time, and the collaboration between different people in the organization and between systems and people are efficient. And that's what we do at Bonitasoft on a day-to-day basis. And I think last topic, which is my new topic, and I think it's going to be my favorite topic of next year, is everything that relates to reward and recognition. Rewarding employees because they are making individual contributions. It's always important, but it's way easier to do that when you are in an office than when everyone is remote. No, so there are more and more rewards and recognition platforms. I think we're going to be seeing also in the next coming month a lot of innovation in that space, making sure that we can correlate that and interconnect well with other solutions that are already existing in the organization. That, for example, you can also make some challenge that are available for different people. I don't know if it's important for you to have different people writing articles to promote different kind of things of your software. You can reward everyone that is writing an article. If you want to reward people that are contributing to open source projects, you can make a connector to GitHub and make a challenge, and then automatically recognize that. So I think we're going to see more and more of those platforms and some innovative use in the following years, because particularly in 2022, because there is a need of that. Everybody wants to be recognized. It's difficult to recognize people when they are remote. I think it's going to be part of what we're going to see, as mentioned, following years. And for us in particular at Bonitasoft, we're particularly interested in connecting the two worlds, the process automation tooling with the reward and recognition platforms.
Yeah, great points, Miguel. I mean, we've talked, as Miguel said, about a lot of tools, but are there any that you think we haven't mentioned yet that are really important, or either today or that you think will be coming soon? Anyone want to take those questions?
Yeah, I think I mean we could call out specific tools, but I think what the biggest challenge right now is the adaptability, right? Because we were hit with this, the situation with COVID kind of out of the blue, and a lot of the tools people are going to are things that you can use out of the box, right? Like this is why companies like Zoom and Slack have done so well, because there's not a lot of configuration or major integrations required. um, and I think that's kind of the direction that a lot of companies are going in terms of what tech they want to implement. It's whatever they can get out in the hands of their employees the fastest. And I think that's a big consideration that that a lot of people are looking at the moment.
Great points. And then any new stuff on the horizon that you're excited about, Rohan? You may have a good sense of this with your background.
I think more than new stuff, I think it's just a lot of the acquisitions that a lot of these tech companies are doing, right? You hear about Microsoft, you hear about Salesforce, you hear about even Tesla for that matter. I mean, you're hearing all these big tech giants and all the companies that they're buying out and the new things that they're trying to do. Specifically, I'll call out like Tesla and robotics, right? They're creating a robot that's going to go and basically do everyday tasks for people, right? And it makes you think, okay, well, this is just a one step in that direction where things are going to become more and more autonomous, right? Whether it's the technologies itself from a business perspective, that hey, like now we can work from home and we can interact with each other virtually via whether it's a Zoom call, a Teams call, or whatever have you. I feel like it's just all these technologies building on each other is what the future is.
Great. Who wants to take this question next?
Yeah, in terms of tools that companies should invest in, so we've covered that, like collaboration tools, communication tools. These are very important. We build a search tool, and we also think that companies should really invest in making sure that they are empowering their employees and enabling them. Make sure that it's easy for them to find information, make sure it's easy for them to create knowledge, keep it up to date. So investing in search and knowledge management tools is also is also a key in this new distributed world.
Great. And Patricia, any
Yeah,
thoughts?
well, something that I mean, I'll add on basically what you've already said. I mean, well, my background is investment banking, so I started as investment banker, and sort of like the two key things that I've seen that could be useful, for example, in the sector. Well, the first one being everything around employee wellness. So obviously, I don't know whether you guys ever saw this scandal that happened with like 12 analysts from Goldman Sachs, that they published this report where they basically complained about the status of all of the analysts. So I'm pretty sure, like Neil, if they have had something in place that was more focused on employee wellness and resilience, maybe Goldman Sachs wouldn't have been like all over the place and all over the news. So obviously that is sort of like the first thing, that we don't use it internally, but I think it's like a very interesting vertical, again, like employee wellness. And then in terms of like privacy and security, that we didn't really speak about it, but again, like here in banking, being able to control the remote access, to like enterprise desktops through like, single sign-ons, etc., is something that maybe, other companies or other corporations, other verticals could start to replicate. Because I mean, right now, for example, I'm here with my personal desktop, my personal phone. So obviously I can do whatever I want with my laptop. I know that I'm not going to do anything, but I mean, at the end of the day, I'm the CEO of my company, but I don't know what's going on with the rest of my employees. So obviously, if I had a system in place that will sort of like force my employees to log in to an enterprise desktop or to like say the enterprise Windows kind of thing, I mean, would ensure that at least all of the company information is a lot safer and a lot more secured, again, like in an enterprise safe environment. And then away from banking and sort of like looking a little bit more into the future of work from home, I think, well, I'm sort of like an efficiency first type of person. So like Miguel, I love automations. So anything that can be automated in the workplace is just like more than welcome. So I believe that at least the work from home is going to help improve the productivity of employees considerably. Again, because remote work has sort of like reinforced issues that pre-existed before COVID, but now we see them, basically better because again, we're like each one in our home. But the fact that you don't have to travel that much, you have more meetings, you don't waste that much time. Well, obviously, it improves efficiency, and the fact that again, that there are like tools like Slack or relationship management tools, etc., that allow to improve workflows and make access to information a little bit more easy. I'm pretty sure that it's going to help, like employees again with their productivity and ROI levels. But obviously, we always have to take into account that even though like productivity is growing a lot, we must not forget about the mental wellness of employees, right? So
Yeah, great point.
we need to compensate that, like how much more they're going to work, how much more productive they're going to become versus, okay, how can this impact their mental well-being?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point. I mean, I've seen some companies say, well, you don't have to commute, so that's more time for us. And so I think this balance is that Patricia was just talking about is really important. I mean, another thing that I've noticed is, I'm a leader at a software company, and I have the luxury of having a room that I can call my office, and I only have one kid left in the house, and he's in high school, and now he can drive, so he's like virtually never home. But like there are plenty of people who, they're younger, they've got 3 or 4 kids running around the house, they're trying to be on a Zoom call, and they don't have a dedicated office. And so I think it's really, empathy is probably one of the most important things in any crisis for people to work on. And I think often people don't even know, what are the tools? Can I even grow in my empathy? Is that even possible? Do I want to? What are the tools to do that? Like all of the human side is really, I think, fascinating. One of the tools that we have implemented in our solution is a chatbot. And I think chatbots are really interesting because in some ways you want them to be very human, and in some ways I think you don't. So for example, we have an ability in our chatbot, if you're having a really crappy day, to just vent. And so it just says like, tell me everything that you're mad about or upset about, and like it's all safe in the vault. And everyone knows it's not a human, but people will say, they'll type in like, I love that, like with zero judgment, I can just say everything I'm mad about and nobody's going to judge me. And the fact that it's not a human is better than if it was a human, because humans actually are worse at that than computers with open text boxes. So I think figuring out what are computers better at, let them do that. Yeah. What are humans better at, let them do that. There's still a long way to go, I think, in finding that balance, because I think when we get it wrong is when we try to have computers be humans and humans be computers. And so I think there's still a lot to be sorted on that. But just before we bring John back to wrap things up, any final thoughts on any of these topics that anyone wants to add before we wrap up?
Maybe just one thing, what we are seeing today is that, it's an exciting field, the WorkTech environment, also really complex. And as I think that at some point we were mentioning, I think we're at the early days of what's going to happen. No? So what makes the years to come really exciting for all of us.
Yeah.
And I mean, I would like to add that something that WorkTech has sort of like demonstrated is that remote working is not only, like affecting internal communications and internal relationships amongst your company, but also like external communication and external relationships. Like, how do you connect with your clients? Like, how do you engage with them? So it's basically impacting companies and professionals in a 360 way. So like Miguel said, I mean, there are very like exciting times upcoming, and it's going to be interesting to see how all of these technologies evolve basically to cover everything from tech, automations, internal communications, external relationships. So there's like literally a lot of verticals that can be addressed and that are very prone to change in the upcoming years. Sorry.
Sure. Arvid,
Yeah,
anything
and I would just add to that I think so. Like there was a good discussion today. All of us sharing our experiences on what companies should do. But I think the most important thing is as a leader at your own company, you should be asking your employees and like be very active in terms of asking questions, doing surveys. Let's see what people need. And it's like we do surveys and we discover a lot of like really unique new requests from people which you would have not imagined before people started to work remotely. So that's the key. Like stay connected with your team, run surveys as often as you can, and make decisions accordingly.
Just a quick follow-up on that. What is something that one of your surveys told you that surprised you? I'd be curious to know that.
Yeah, like so one of the things we hear again is around the topic actually came up, like it's hardware requests, and the we like we were already planning for like as people started to work from home, like wanted to make sure that they have the right gear, they have good monitor, keyboard, screens, but like there were other things that people needed, like people needed desks, chairs, things like that. And it's interesting, like these are small investments in our opinion to make to really create that best environment for people. And so there are things that like not other things not coming to my mind right now, but the point is that like talk to your team.
Got it.
Important.
And Rohan, any last thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're, especially from the discussion today, lots of perspectives. We're definitely in a transition period, right? We're, relatively new to all these transformations that we're seeing. So I think there's a lot more to come. But I think overall, I think the biggest takeaway is we are now going towards, a virtual environment at work. And I think we're going to see more and more of this, whether it's at work, whether it's at school. I wouldn't be surprised if 5-10 years down the road we don't even have offices anymore, right? There's so much change and so much at the speed that it's going at. I think we have a lot that we can maybe even next year when we're on this call again, we'll be talking about something completely different.
Yeah, just to build on what Rohan just said, there's all this. There was in the beginning of the pandemic, there was a lot of talk about going back. And to Rohan's point, I think to some extent, we're never going to go back. We're going to go forward in a slightly different way. And I think that lots of executives have realized that people can be productive working from home, and you can trust people to work when they're working from home. And I think that trust wasn't really established for a lot of people prior to this exercise. And so I think there will be a lot more hybrid. There'll be more leaning in on tech to help people feel more connected, to help us retain our humanity. And it will be difficult, and there will be new challenges that we haven't really experienced. I think a lot of people have been kind of holding on, waiting for things to go back, and haven't really accepted that maybe it won't be exactly like it was ever again. And maybe we do need to find a new way forward. And that's a little scary. And yet that's kind of how progress always works. It's how we find new terrain and new worlds is by having to let go of the old and find the new, even in a challenging situation. So I really appreciate everyone's conversations. I know John's going to come back in a moment and give us wrap us up.
No, thank you for that, Neil. That was particularly insightful, and I agree 100% coming to you from my home office here. So definitely echo a lot of those points. I just wanted to give each of you one last opportunity to promote your solution or to plug something, just direct the audience where they'd like to go. We just heard from Neil, so let's start with Rowan on this quick topic here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a specific product or anything to plug. I think I'm just going to talk a little bit, about, I think it's just the importance of keeping an open mind to all these different changes and all these transformations that are happening in the market. there's a lot out there that's still to come. I think we're going to see a lot of different strategies and a lot of different technologies out there. Overall, I mean, for me, I specialize in CRM. I don't have a specific platform. I mean, I do a lot of Salesforce. I do some Monday.com. I'll do some SAP. You know, there's a lot of big names there. I don't particularly push one of them over the other. I think they're all my babies, but there's I think it's just a matter of, you know, what works for you, and you know, doing your market research on the different technologies that are out there.
Right on. Thank you, Rowan. Arvin, what about you? Is there anything you'd like to promote, or just something you want to tell the audience in 30 seconds?
Yeah, so like in terms of investing in tools, again, like companies should strive to build an awesome remote working toolkit that includes really good communication tools, like we love Slack, communication tools, whether it's Teams or Zoom or Google Meets, I think they all work really well. And then of course we'd like to push our own tool, like making sure that people have a great search tool for their company. So Glean is a great product for that. It will really help make your teams productive in your company, like make it really easy for them to find the information they need to do their work. Like don't have to worry about trying to sort of find that across like hundreds of different applications within your company.
Thank you. Patricia.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'd like to reinforce what I've already mentioned throughout this past hour, that obviously remote work has impacted a lot relationship building, whether that is internally or externally, like basically connecting or building relationships with your clients. We have found ourselves in a world that being like everything's so digital with, the metaverse around the corner. We have sort of like lost the human side, or we're losing a little bit the human side of relationships. So again, obviously with KADO, that's what we're striving for, to bring that human back to business relationships. So obviously, I mean, if there is anyone out there listening that is, whether from the banking, legal industries, or any sort of like relationship driven industries, and would love to learn more, I mean, I'm very happy to chat. I'm always very happy to also hear other people's views on how they are tackling this in their own work. So obviously my doors are open to chat with whoever is interested in the topic.
Sounds good. Thank you. Miguel, and you're on mute at the minute.
Sure. So just last word is always, hard for me to do self-promotion, but,
Let's give it a try.
No, just as part of our values that are, trust and transparency, that I think that resonates really well when we're talking about making employees' life happier, especially in a remote environment. I would like to say that, if you are looking for a process automation solution, our solution is open source, so it's part of those trust and transparency values. So you can go to the website and just evaluate the technology for yourself. We don't ask any information, and then you make a choice.
I like it. Sounds good. And Neil.
If we've learned anything in the last couple of years, is resilience is very important. And we have 20 years of science in building resilience for the individual, team, and organization. And so if you want a resilient organization, I'd encourage you to go to meQuilibrium.com. Resilience is a set of skills that can be learned. You can learn them, your whole organization can learn them, and be more resilient, because this won't be the last challenge we face in this world.
Well said. I wanted to feature a couple comments we got through the broadcast. This one from Spencer. He said, great points all around. WorkTech is certainly a very important aspect of all business, and we should see significant growth in this market in the future. Seems to be echoing what each of you have said over the last hour. And this one from William. I love Neil's comments about figuring out when and how chatbots should act like people and when they should act like computers. Really insightful stuff. Yeah, I think your short monologue there, Neil, about sort of the empathy and using chatbots almost as like a built-in therapist is a very unique idea, but I kind of love that, and I would definitely appreciate seeing that sort of catch on in the future. I do want to formally wrap up there. We're coming to the end of the hour here, so I want to thank all of our panelists for your time and the audience for your attention. If you came in late or missed any portion of this discussion, you can rewatch the entire broadcast anytime at youtube.com/solutions review. And please stay tuned to all of our social channels for continuing coverage of the third annual Insight Jam happening all this week, including our next roundtable panel discussion happening tomorrow at 1 p.m. in the BI and data analytics space. And that panel topic is going to be data governance in the era of remote work, sort of a running theme this week, remote work. One last time, thank you, panelists. My name is Jonathan Paula. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great afternoon.
Take care, everybody.